Okay, optional question, and they say given z, which is a complex number, and they say it's a form a plus bi, where a and b are real numbers. Then they go on to say, excuse me, show you that z to the nth power plus the quantity 1 minus I times z to the nth power would be equal to 0. And it goes on to show that b equals minus 1/2. And this is the show part, all right? Now, what I'd recommend to do is looking at the problem is to look at the modulus of the problem. All right, so let's go through that. The modulus of z, and again, z is equal to a plus bi. The modulus of that is simply a squared plus b squared. It's the root of it. All right, that's the modulus of it. And then, looking at the other one, a little more complicated, it's the modulus of that. I'll write this down for you. It's 1 minus I z, and that's going to be 1 minus I, and z is just a plus bi. Well, let's be careful. It's going to be 1 minus ai, and then it's going to be minus bi squared. Well, let's see what you get there. You're going to get, let's see, 1 plus b minus ai. All right, now the modulus of this, let's write this down for you. 1 minus iz is going to be 1 plus b squared plus a squared, the root of that. All right, so I got the modulus for both of those, and then someone says, well, what are you going to do with that? Well, for this thing to sum to 0, the nth power of these things, what I know about it is the modulus have to match up, all right? So what I'm going to do over here is write this down. So I'm looking at this, and I'll just get rid of the root, for example, because I'm looking at the radicand. So a squared plus b squared has to be the same thing as 1 plus b squared plus a squared, all right? So what I know about this, the a squared is just subtract from both sides, and I'm left with something pretty simple. I'm left off with b squared equals 1 plus b quantity squared. Let's go through that. That's b squared equals, that's going to be 1 plus 2b plus b squared. Take away b squared from both sides. Subtract 1. You get minus 1 equals 2b. And lo and behold, what do we get? b equals minus 1/2. And that's what they asked us to show. And we just showed that. All right, so we're done with that. All right, now someone says, I wonder what a is in the problem. A little more complicated. So we did the showing part. And what I want to do is just talk about, the a is far more difficult to deal with. At least in my opinion, it's far more difficult to deal with. So just take some simple examples. And, certainly if I took the n to be 1, you would get z plus 1 minus iz equals 0. Let's go through this. And what do you get? You get z plus 1 minus iz equals 0. Well, what's z? Let's just remind you what z is. Z is equal to, that's going to be, what is that going to be equal to? That's going to be a. Now remember, we just did the b, so I'm going to say minus 1/2 of an I. All right, our goal is to find out what the a is in the problem. So let's take a look at it, and let's go through it. What are you going to do over here? Well, I'm just doing this over here now. It's going to be a minus 1/2 of an I plus 1 minus I, and the z again is a minus 1/2 of an I, and that equals 0. What do you get over here? A minus 1/2 of an I plus 1 minus ai, and that's going to be plus 1/2 I squared. Well, kind of looking at it, and got some things to have to deal with here over here, and let's just add it together. And what do I see over here? Let's do the real part first. And I'm seeing a plus 1, and this over here is minus 1/2. And then the complex part, I'm looking at it, and let's write it down. So you get what? Minus 1/2 I minus ai equals 0. Let's go through this. I'm kind of looking at it, and I know the real part. This is the real part here, and this is going to be that imaginary part over here. And what do I know about this? I know the A has to be equal to, looking at it, it would have to be equal to minus 1/2. Let's just check that to make sure that's true. And it is, because this thing would sum to 0 then. So I got it. A equals minus 1/2. All right, not so bad. All right, let's do the square part, a little more difficult. And certainly I'm just testing this thing out. And we'll go through it. All right, so this one, I figured that one out. Let's do another one. And I want to point out that the further you go on, the more difficult they become. So let's do the square. So what do you get? You get z squared plus 1 minus I z squared equals 0. And let's take a look at this now. And remember, the z is going to be a, let's see, minus 1/2 of an I. All right, so I'm going to write down z squared for you. And that would be a squared, let's see, minus 2a, and then it's going to be, let's see, 1/2 of an I, and then plus I squared over 4. All right, so let's keep going and see what we get over here. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, the 1 minus I z now. Then we'll square it. You know what, maybe I should square that now. Now let me do that for you. So what do you get? You know what, maybe before doing this, I probably should square it anyway. Let me do that for you. So what do you get over here? You get z squared plus 1. I'm gonna cross this out saying that. I don't know if that was too productive. Let's just simplify this over here. What do you get? 1 minus 2iz plus I squared z squared equals 0. What's nice about this just disappears. All right, what he left off with? 1 minus 2iz. And what's the z? Again, the z is going to be a minus 1/2 of an I. And this is still equal to 0. All right, let's keep going through this. You get 1 minus 2ai plus I squared. And that equals 0. Well, let's keep going. What do I got? Well, 1 plus I squared is 0, so I'm left off with minus 2ai is equal to 0. And, looking at it, a has to be 0 now. All right? Let's just check it, make sure we got that one right. A is 0. We did it. Now, over here it says you may want to try n equals 3, but I got to be honest with you, it's way more complicated. All right? Way more complicated. All right? So, let me remind you about the story again. They wanted us to verify that the b was minus 1/2. They didn't ask us to do anything beyond that, but we did try something beyond that. Thank you for paying attention.